Let's talk about why your TPT resources aren't selling. And to do this, we need to take a walk through the customer journey from how your customer finds your product to how your customer sees your product to how your customer compares your product, and then finally to why your customer decides whether or not they're going to make a purchase about your product. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about the 4 main reasons your product isn't selling on Teachers Pay Teachers. And the first one is your customer can't find it. If your customer cannot find your product, then they can't buy your product. So how does a buyer find you? Well, they can find you one of 2 ways. The first way that they can find you is by searching for a specific topic or resource that they're looking for when they're not necessarily looking for you or for your resource. They may not even know that it exists yet. And the second way is if you bring them there. So let's talk about that first way. What you want to make sure that you're doing is you want to make sure you're using the appropriate keywords within your product description and your product title so that if buyers are searching for you, they can find you. Now, this can get a little bit complicated, and I'm going to drop a link in the description below to a webinar that I have over this that kind of goes into this in way more detail that I could even fit inside of this video, inside of this podcast. But for now, what I'm going to say is you want to make sure that if you are using a popular search term, so like for example, in my niche, that might be Pythagorean theorem activity or solving equations activity. 3 words, something very, very generic, something very simple, that if I type those 3 words in, I'm going to get the top sellers. Well, if I'm brand new to the market, I'm not a top seller, right? If my product is brand new, it just hit, it's not going to be the top selling item. So I need to make sure that I am expanding the keywords that I'm using in order to get a more detailed search that a buyer might type in. So a buyer might type in solving equations activity, but then decide, you know what, actually, I'm teaching Algebra 1. I need a solving multi-step equations activity that includes rational numbers, okay? And so I might want to go and look and see, can I add some of those keywords to my title and to my product description to help distinguish and set apart my product from the other mainstream, highly competitive products that are on the market so that when buyers are searching for something specific, they can find me. If they can't find me when they're searching for something generic, then I want them to be able to find me when they are searching for something specific. And so I might need to get a little bit more specific with my title. Now, having said that, I want to get specific, but I want to use words that buyers would actually search for. And if you want to learn more about this, I'm going to put a link down in the description to that free webinar on how to get more views. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check out that free webinar, Get More Views. But this is essentially what I want to do. I want to make sure that the keywords that I'm using, buyers can actually find me. Are they actually searching for those words? Am I using things to describe my product that my buyer would never type into the search engine? Or am I using words that they might actually type into the search engine? And if they type those words into the search engine, are they able to find me? And to know the answer to that, you're going to actually have to do some testing. Go and check and see. If I type these keywords into the search engine, are other products showing up under those keywords? If so, are those products selling? Do they have a substantial number of reviews? Or do they have enough reviews to let me know that buyers are finding them and purchasing that product? If so, then that might be a good set of keywords for me. If I'm searching for that set of keywords and I'm coming up absolutely empty, there's nothing there, that tells me that maybe buyers aren't necessarily searching for that set of keywords and I need to try again. If the only ones that show up are my products and my products are not selling, then that tells me I need to try another set of keywords. It's not working, all right? So let's talk about that second way that buyers can find you and find your resources, and that is from driving traffic there yourself. And everyone is different. Some people are major data nerds and they love digging into that data and finding those exact keywords and really search engine optimizing their product listing so that buyers can find them, where other people would rather grow their own audience via Instagram, social media, email marketing, blogging, things like that, and drive traffic to those resources rather than spending a lot of time on SEO. So this really depends on where you want to spend your time, but obviously I would recommend making sure that you're doing both. You have a way that you are growing your audience so that you can drive traffic to the products that you know buyers would love if they only knew that they existed, and you want to make sure your products are search engine optimized so that buyers can find you organically. And that's going to be the best of both worlds. And it's going to make you the most money and get you the most sales. But let's talk about what happens once buyers find you, because it could be that they are finding your product, but then something else is turning them off. So we're walking through the customer journey. We've talked about getting the buyer to even know that your product exists. Now your buyer knows your product exists. They see it. Let's say they come across it inside of TPT search organically, and they see that product, but they're not clicking through, okay? So buyers are finding your product in TPT search. Your product is showing up. Your resource is showing up for a fairly popular set of keyword search terms, but buyers aren't clicking on it. It's not getting any views. Well, the issue then is either going to be your cover or your price. Something there is turning them off. It's either that your cover is not appealing or your price is not appealing. So maybe when they type that set of keywords in, your resource is listed at $1.50 where other resources are listed at $3. If that's the case, then they're probably sitting there thinking, well, that $1.50 resource may not be as high of quality as these $3 resources. And so they're going and looking at the $3 resources first, thinking that it might be higher quality. And this is particularly true if you have a brand new resource. If you have a brand new resource and it's listed at half the price of the other resources on the market, there's no reviews there, nothing like that, nothing to attest to the quality of your product, then this is going to be even more true for the buyer. Because if they're seeing a $3 product, a product that's twice the price, but it has reviews, it has recommendations from other teachers who have purchased that product, it has testimonials that come with it, then they're going to feel a lot more comfortable spending $3 on something that's been proven inside of the market than they are going to spend $1.50 on something, because it could be that maybe other people are looking at that resource and they're just not wanting to get it because it's just not up to snuff with the rest of the resources that are there. Now, is any of what that buyer is thinking about your resource true? Probably not. Your resource is probably really high quality, but you have to be aware of what's going through the buyer's mind. A lot of times new sellers, what they'll do is they'll underprice their resources in order to be competitive, but it's really actually hurting them. And so in underpricing their resources, buyers are undervaluing the product and they're not even looking at it to begin with. The other thing is you want to make sure it's appealing. When buyers type in those keyword search terms, is what's popping up more appealing to the buyer? Is the buyer seeing something that they specifically want to see on the other covers that they're not seeing on yours? And to give you an example of this, this is a really simple one that a lot of people don't think about. In lower elementary grades, in early childhood, and even on into elementary, and sometimes even through middle school and high school, just depending on your niche, sometimes there's a lot of overlap between topics. So maybe there's something that could be taught and used in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and it would work for all 3 grade levels. But the buyer is specifically a 6th grade teacher. And when they are typing in those keyword search terms, they're looking for a 6th grade resource. Now, you're going to have a lot of teachers that know that something that could be used for 4th grade inside of their niche could also be used for 6th grade, but you're also going to have a lot of buyers who are specifically looking for something that was designed for their students. They want the right amount of rigor, they want the right vocabulary, they want all of that to be there, and they want it to be packaged for them. And so by casting that wide net and not putting a grade level on your cover, sometimes you could be doing yourself a disservice. Because if that buyer is typing in that set of keywords, and let's say they include 5th grade in there and yours is showing up because it is for 5th grade as well, but 5th grade isn't on the cover, their eye, because they're looking specifically for 5th grade, might be drawn to a cover that has 5th grade on it, okay? And so you want to think about things like that. When they type in these keyword search terms, what other covers are popping up, and what is it that that's appealing to them more than what's on my cover? And so I want to go and do some market research and take a look specifically at that. Now let's talk about what happens after they click. So we've gotten them to see our product. They're at our product page. We've optimized our cover. We've optimized our price. They've clicked on that. They've clicked on through. Now, what's keeping them from purchasing our product? Well, the main thing is going to be this. It's going to be that they don't see the value in your product. If someone clicks on through to your product, they were attracted by the cover, they were attracted by the price, the keywords matched your resource and exactly what they were looking for, but then they click on through, most of the time it's going to be because they don't see the value in your product. And some might disagree with me on this and say, well, it could be other reasons. It could be that it wasn't exactly what they were looking for. And that's true. And that's why we want to make sure that we are accurately depicting on our cover. We're giving an accurate representation on our cover of what our resource is so that we're not losing that conversion rate. But once they get there, most of the time, the reason a buyer leaves without purchasing is because they don't understand how valuable your resource is or how valuable your resource could be to them inside of their classroom. Because even if a buyer has something specific in mind when they come to TPT and your product is different from what they specifically had in mind, if they can see the value in your product, you can convince them to use something that's different from what they originally had intended for their classroom. And so we want to make sure that we're highlighting the value that our product has to offer. I want to make sure that I'm telling them exactly what is included inside of my resource. If I have a set of 35 task cards, I want to make sure that number 35 task cards is there. If there are ways that these task cards can be differentiated, I want to make sure that's highlighted within my preview. If my task cards include black and white and color versions, then I want to make sure that that's included as well. These are some things that a lot of times people will put inside of the product description, but they don't include in their preview. And so as the buyer is scrolling through those thumbnails and then they open up that preview, if they're not seeing the value there, why would they go down and take more time to read about your product if they don't see the value inside of the preview? And so we want to make sure that our preview highlights all of the value that our product has to offer. I want to make sure that I'm explaining to them how this product is going to meet their specific need inside of the classroom, how it's going to provide an enhanced learning opportunity for students, how it's going to save them time, and maybe even how they're going to be able to use this in multiple different ways or at multiple different points throughout the school year. So let's quickly recap that. The first thing that we want to do if a product is not selling is we want to start at the beginning of the customer journey. How is your buyer finding you? Are they able to find you? Can they find you through keyword search terms? Are you directing traffic to TPT on your own? The answer needs to be yes to at least one of those two questions, but preferably both. Okay? And then once the buyer has found your product, are they enticed by the cover? Does your cover accurately represent what your product is, what it does, and what your buyer is looking for? And then is your price competitive with the other resources that are on the market that are like yours? And then finally, once they've been enticed by that and they are looking at your product, does your product description and your preview specifically show the value that your product has to offer to that teacher? Those are the four things that I think about when a product is not selling. Number one, can they find me? Number two, do they like me? Number three, am I priced competitively? And number four, do they see the value in what it is that I have to offer? Those four things. All right, if you want to learn more about how to get more views on your product, how to pick the appropriate keyword search terms, and how to make sure that your cover is attractive and appealing to your buyer, then you want to make sure you check out that free webinar, Get More Views, inside of the description. It's absolutely free and it comes with a workbook so that you can immediately implement what you have learned and practice it on one of your resources. If you want to learn more and grow more with me, as always, you'll find me inside of Rebranded Teacher Academy. Every single month, we have a challenge inside of the group where we focus on growing a specific area of our TPT business, and we would love to see you there. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.